all of this. Julia, Putin is saying a lot, but he's insisting that he's not trying to annex parts of the country as he did with Crimea back in 2014, I believe. Can you just, who can get into Putin's mind? I don't think that either of us can, but what exactly is this endgame?
I don't understand Putin's mind, and I think it's hard for even those close to Putin to get inside his mind, Adrian. However, I will say this. What we've seen over the past 10 hours or so with the beginning of what really seems to be a full-scale invasion of Ukraine definitely seems to be an offensive move from the Russians to move farther west. They're sending, obviously, a signal to Ukraine that they would like to take at least, and I say at the very least, a chunk of that country, or even potentially move even farther west to some of those former Soviet states that are a part of NATO. And this is why I think this really goes bigger than Ukraine. This is about a larger scale conflict, a larger scale tensions, really, between the West and Russia, specifically NATO and Russia. And both of these forces between NATO and Russia are really trying to offset each other's influence. And we've seen this happening really for years now, ever since really the fall of the Soviet Union, when we saw a number of former Soviet states like Poland, like the former Czechoslovakia, now the Czech Republic, becoming members of NATO. However, now it really seems to have come to a tipping point since that period in the 90s.
And we're also hearing that markets are plunging. Right now, we have Marley is on standby for us. But really quickly, the announcement that Putin made his speech just when the UN Security Council was in emergency session could not have been a coincidence.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Putin knows, knows exactly what he's doing, and he's playing a messaging game as well. I mean, the U.S. has very much been trying to amplify the Russian intelligence it's been receiving. Well, I think Putin is doing the same thing, and this is all about timing for him. It's not a coincidence, and he knows, and other Russian leaders know, that this move will impact the U.S. and the West economically. Obviously, sanctions will impact Russia. However, we have to remember that much of the West relies on Russian natural gas. So they realize that we're going to be paying more at the pump. So it's very much a double-edged sword.
Yeah, and, economics. The economics of war certainly threatening a lot of us right now. Thank you, Julia, so much. Let's get to Marley with that volatility on. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.